Hello. Hello. Very good afternoon, everyone. Is anyone there? Can you please let me know about the audio video? Is it clear or not? Anyone? Anyways, so very good afternoon. Welcome back again in the CAIIB series of BFM, which we are doing. So we were doing the correspondent banking and NRI account series, in which we have done the correspondent banking. What is correspondent banking? What all are the types of correspondent banks? We were discussing the NRI accounts, right? So in earlier class, in the last class, I have discussed with you NRE account, okay? NRE account in detail. What all are the provisions under the NRE account, right? So we have done till this point, we have completed the NRE account, which was this, right? Non-resident external rupee account, okay? So we have done this particular account. We are discussing all the types of NRI accounts which are there for the non-residents, right? So first one is done. I hope you understood it. I told you that I will discuss the case study. I asked you to read about the case study given below this table, right? But when I read that case study, there are a mix up of questions given there, right? So you will be able to attempt these questions of the case study only when we have completed all the types of account, the NRE account, the NRO account, and the FCNRB account, and all other accounts, right? So it will be after completion of these accounts that we will be taking up the case studies, because these statements are mixed. You know, some statements are from NRO, so for someone answer is NRO, for some questions answer is FCNRB, NRE. So we need to understand these accounts first holistically, then we will do the case studies. Got this point, right? So we have done the NRE account. Now I'll be discussing with you today the FCNRB account, all the provisions of the FCNRB account, as well as the NRO account, okay? So this thing we have done. This was your case study, but since it is a mixture, so first we will complete these types of accounts, then together we will take all these case studies, okay? Then you will be able to answer these questions and understand what is it talking about, right? So next we have is FCNRB account. As you can see, foreign currency non-resident account, banks scheme, okay? FCNRB. As you can see, it is foreign currency. So, so in the NRE account, we have seen that it will be in your domestic currency or Indian rupee. But since, as the name suggests, it is FCNRB, foreign currency non-resident account. So it will be in your designated foreign currencies. Remember this thing. This is the difference, okay? Also try to compare these provisions of one account with the other one. Try to contrast them so that you will be able to retain these features for a longer period of time, okay? So let's see what all are the particulars, what is allowed, what is not allowed under the FCNRB account, okay? Another type of our NRI account, clear? So first and foremost question, who all can open this account? Who can open an FCNRB account? So if you remember this question, we addressed in the NRE section as well, NRE account as well. So under NRE, we have seen that NRIs and PIOs can open. Now in FCNRB, who can open this account? Again, NRIs and PIOs, okay? So if you remember, just try to recall, in the NRE account as well, we have seen that NRIs and PIOs can open this type of account, clear? Okay, and one more thing, we have discussed all these definitions of NRIs and PIOs in the initial class only, as per the Income Tax Act 1961, also as per the Foreign Exchange Management Act, clear? 99. So we have discussed all these definitions, whom do we qualify or we call as NRIs and PIOs. So you can refer to that class if you haven't seen that class, right? Then you will be able to understand and differentiate. So who can open the foreign currency FCNRB account? NRIs and PIOs. Then individual individuals or entities of, particularly if you are following these classes, you are able to catch this out that individuals of Pakistan and Bangladesh, there are specific provisions provided for them, right? They need prior approvals from the RBI to do all these kind of things, to open the bank account, to do these transactions, right? So here as well, as we have seen, the similar provision was there for the in the NRE account as well. So individuals or entities of your Pakistan and Bangladesh shall require prior approval of RBI. As I told you, they will require prior approval of RBI to open FCNRB account. Clear? So you should remember this thing. Okay, who all can open? NRIs and PIOs, but these individuals or entities, if belonging to Pakistan or Bangladesh for that matter, or any country specified by the central government for that matter, right, will require a prior approval of the RBI. So this is the first particular. The second one, if we talk about, is your joint account. Just try to recall, in the NRE account as well, we have seen the provision of joint account. So the structure is same. It is just the difference between what is allowed and what is not allowed in a particular type of account. So you should remember all these particulars, they are same for all accounts. It's just the content which will make the difference, right? So when we talk about joint account, is there any provision of opening up of joint account for the FCNRB account holders or for NRIs and PIOs? Yes, as was the case in NRE as well. So we have discussed that in NRE also you can open a joint account, but there were conditions attached, right? Similarly here, if we talk about joint account holding, so yes, it may be held jointly. So this account, this FCNRB account can be held jointly by whom? In the names of two or more NRIs and PIOs. Since NRIs and PIOs only are allowed to open this account, so this account can be held jointly by NRIs and PIOs. Clear? This thing should be clear. Next, NRIs and PIOs can hold jointly with a resident relative. Also, one thing, either of them, either the NRI or the PIO, can also held or hold this account jointly with their relative who is a resident of India, but one condition will apply here. What is that condition? On the former and survivor basis. Similar was the case with the NRE account, if you remember, right? So on the former or survivor basis, what does that mean? So the provision says that NRIs and PIOs can hold this account jointly with their resident relative, but on a former or survivor basis. Okay, what is this former or survivor basis? That resident relative will only operate that account on behalf of the account holder, joint account holder, or the NRI or the PIO, only after the demise of that person. Clear? This is the former or survivor basis. Got this point? But what about the power of attorney? You can operate that account as power of attorney. If you are able to recall it, that as power of attorney on the behalf of someone, you can operate it. But if you want to operate it as a joint account holder, for that the former or survivor basis is necessary. Are you getting my point? Right? And who is this relative? Who is this relative? This relative can be anyone who is defined by the Companies Act 2013. When we were discussing about the NRE account in the previous class, I have discussed with you all the criteria for a person to be classified, to qualify for this resident relative status, right? That can be a father, mother, sister, daughter, right? Stepfather, stepmother, all these things we have discussed as per Companies Act. Wife, okay, son, all these things. So these individuals can be relatives who are defined, relative term is particularly defined under your Companies Act 2013, that is mentioned above in the PDF which we have discussed in the last class. Okay. So that relative can hold account jointly with this NRI or PIO, anyone who is there, but only on former and survivor basis, which is only after the death of the NRI or the PIO who is the account holder, right? But if you want to operate it not as a joint account holder but as power of attorney on behalf of someone, right? Then you can do during the lifetime. Remember this difference. I have emphasized this in the previous class as well, okay? So relative will be defined as per Companies Act 2013, as we have discussed in the last class. The resident relative can operate the account as a power of attorney holder. Remember, as I told you recently, that relative can operate the account as a power of attorney holder during the lifetime of the NRI or PIO account holder. So, if you want to operate that account as power of attorney on behalf of someone, not as a joint account holder, then you can operate it during the lifetime of the account holder or the PIO or the NRI. But if you want to operate it as a joint account holder, that can happen only after the demise of NRI or the PIO, or on the former or survivor basis. This is something which you should remember, okay? Now, if we talk about the currency, so as the name suggests you, foreign currency non-resident account, bank account, right? So here your deposits will be in the designated foreign currency, okay, which is freely convertible. Getting this point? So this is different from NRE account. In NRE account, it is your non-resident account in rupees, okay? So NRE account was your rupee account. It was to be maintained in your domestic currency, that is rupee. But FCNRB has to be maintained in your foreign currency, and that foreign currency has to be among those foreign currencies which are designated for this purpose, for this account, as well as they are freely convertible, okay? Those currencies which are freely convertible. Getting my point? So these are, your US dollars, your British pound, pound sterling, then you have Japanese yen, you have Australian dollar, you have Canadian dollar. All these currencies can be used, which are freely convertible, are permitted for FCNRB deposits, okay? So currency, any permitted currency, that is foreign currency which is freely convertible. So for this matter, you have US dollar, Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, yen, okay, British pound, all these currencies, right? So this is the situation of FCNRB in terms of your currency. Now if we talk about the type of account, if you all remember, in the NRE account, we have discussed this particular in the NRE account. So I am comparing all of them because then you will be able to recall the earlier provisions and remember or retain them for a longer period of time. That's why contrasting the information, remembering something on basis of differentiation helps you retain it for longer. Getting my point? So here type of account is term deposit only. Remember, term deposit only. Unless or unlike NRE account. In NRE account, you could have saving account, current account, fixed deposit, right? So under NRE, that NRE account can be a saving account, a current account, a fixed deposit. But here we are talking about FCNRB account. FCNRB account can only be held as a term deposit. Do you understand what is a term deposit? Term deposits are those deposits in which you cannot withdraw very frequently or on your demand, like your fixed deposits. Like they have a fixed term, fixed lock-in period that you have to deposit the money till this time. Okay, so there is a time period given, therefore they are called as term deposit. Unlike the demand deposits, like saving accounts, we all have saving accounts. Like so in saving accounts, you can withdraw the money on demand n number of times, or say very frequently, if not n number of times. There might be restrictions, okay. But here in term deposits, it is fixed for a fixed term. Okay, you can only withdraw after that time. So this can be held only FCNRB. FCNRB can be held only as a term deposit. Clear? Clearly remember this. Then period for fixed deposits. Now since these are term deposits are nothing but like your fixed deposits, the FDs which we have. So what shall be the period? See, whenever we talk about fixed deposits or term deposit, it has to be at least 1 year. Okay, it has to be at least 1 year. So for terms, not less than 1 year and not more than 5 years. Remember. So what will be the time duration of this account holding? Not less than 1 year, so it has to be more than 1 year, but less than 5 years. It cannot exceed 5 years. Got this point? So period of fixed deposit or term deposit will be between 1 to 5. At least 1 year, since it is a term deposit, so it has to be at least 1 year, but not more than 5 years. So lower limit is 1, upper limit is 5 years. Clear? Remember, in case of FCNRB account. Okay. Now, this is the thing. So FCNRB account can be held as a term deposit only. Remember, right? Now, if we talk about the permissible credits, what all can be credited into FCNRB account? Okay, what is permissible credit under FCNRB account, as we have seen in the NRI account in the last class as well. So what all can be credited to FCNRB account? Let's see what is permissible, what is allowed. Credits permitted to this account are inward remittances from outside India. We receive remittances from other countries, right? So those incoming remittances from wherever they are coming from outside India are a permissible credit under FCNRB account. So your inward remittances coming towards India from any of the country are permitted to be credited in your FCNRB account. First thing, okay. So remember, inward remittances from outside India. Interest accruing on the account, any interest which is accruing on the account is also permitted to be credited. Okay, so interest is also permitted. Third, interest on investments, if you have done or that account holder has done investment and is earning interest from that investment, that is also a permissible credit under FCNRB account. Clear? So interest on investment, interest accruing directly in the account, interest on investment as well done by the FCNRB account holder, transfer from other NRI or FCNRB accounts. If someone who is NRI account holder, NRI we have discussed, right? NRI we have discussed. So if any NRI account holder or FCNRB, any other FCNRB account holder transfers some amount to this account, that would also be under permissible credit. So it will also be credited in your FCNRB account. That would also be permitted. Clear? Then maturity proceeds of investments, if such investments were made from this account. So if you have done some investments from this account, maturity proceeds of such investments, like you have securities, so when they mature, you receive the principal amount and interest, right? So those maturity proceeds of any investment, any kind of investment it can be. So any maturity proceeds from any investment which is done through this account only, FCNRB, will also be considered as a permissible credit for this matter, and that would be credited in your FCNRB account. Clear? Okay. I hope you are able to understand all these things. They are simple. You just need to revise these things. They will fit into your mind, okay? Because almost same provisions are there for NRE, for FCNRB. We will see the NRO, all same particulars, right? Okay. And such investments were made from this account or through inward remittances. The maturity proceeds of which investments are allowed? Maturity proceeds of all those investments which were done through this account or which have been done using the funds which came as inward remittance in this account. Clear? which were done using the funds which came or which were credited to this account as inward remittances. So these all are your permissible credits under FCNRB account. Clear? Then current income. Current income sources like rent. So your current income like rent, dividend. Dividend, as I have told you, dividend is what? Distributed profit, the share of profit. Okay. So suppose there is a company generating profit, there are two kinds of it, undistributed UDP and the dividend. Okay. So undistributed is which the entrepreneur holds with himself or herself, right? Distributed is one in which there is share of the, say, shareholders or any stakeholder for that matter, right? So it has to be distributed among its stakeholders. That is distributed profit. So if you are receiving such kind of share of your profit, that is dividend. Okay, that is dividend. Okay, distributed profit. Profit that has to be distributed among the stakeholders. So if you are one such a stakeholder and you are receiving such share in form of dividend, that is also your current income. It will also be a permissible credit under FCNRB, right? Okay, it will also be permissible credit. Pension, if you are receiving any interest, in any case current interest, okay, current income we are talking about, will be constituted as a permissible credit to this account. These current income sources will also be considered as permissible under this account. Clear? I hope these permissible credits are very clear to you, right? Easy to remember, just keep on revising, you will be handy about them. Okay. Now next, particular, what are the permissible debits for which purposes debiting the amount from the account is allowed? So what are the permissible debit areas, right? Permissible debits are local disbursements. You need to send money to someone who is local or in India particularly, right? So for local disbursements, debit from the account is allowed. Then remittance outside India. Since inward remittances were also allowed, so remittances outside India are also allowed. You want to send some money as remittance to any country outside India, that is also a permissible debit from the FCNRB account. Okay, so remittances outside India, then transfer to any other NRE or FCNRB account holder. Remember, NRE, not NRO. Okay, so if you want to send money, transfer money to someone who is also an NRE account holder or FCNRB account holder, that is also a permissible debit under FCNRB account. Okay, and investments in India, not outside. If you want to do investments in India, you can use these funds lying there in your FCNRB account. So debit to do investment in India is also permissible, but investment should be in India, remember, right? So investments in India can be done through FCNRB account. So always remember, as we have seen, that credit from other NRE or FCNRB account is allowed. So debit to some other NRE and FCNRB account is also allowed, right? This much is clear. I know these things, you know, are not very much interesting. Some of you might find them interesting, okay, but I'm trying to make it interesting as much as I can, okay, as much as possible. Since these are provisions, we cannot do a lot of with them, right? Although I'm trying to make it simpler for you all, but still these are provisions, set of rules, guidelines, so we have to remember them. We can't help it, okay? So becomes somewhat cumbersome, but this is how what we have to do, okay? We have to proceed with this, right? It is interesting if you are able to remember all these things, you will gain a lot of knowledge about these things, but to remember is the challenge, right? So for remembering all these provisions, you just need to revise them on daily basis. Enough revision, good amount of revision will help you a lot in remembering all these provisions, right? So now we have discussed the permissible credits and permissible debits under FCNRB account. Now what about the repatriability? Since we have discussed repatriability in case of NRE account as well, repatriability means I have told you that the ability to send something back to its source of origin is repatriability, right? So is it repatriable? These funds can be sent back to their source of origin, to the NRI PIO? Yes. Yes, it is repatriable. NRE account was also repatriable, if you remember, right? We have discussed that. So yes, it is repatriable. Now if we talk about taxability, are these funds taxable? Income tax earned in this account, income earned in this account is exempt from taxes or income taxes. Also, the balances maintained here in the FCNRB account are also exempt from your wealth tax. Okay, they are also exempt from wealth tax. So any balance maintained or income generated in this account, deposited in this account, income, interest, anything in this account, FCNRB is exempt from income tax as well as exempt from wealth tax. Clear? Okay. Remember, try to recall similar provision for NRE account. We have discussed that under NRE account as well, all the income, balances, interest accruing to the account are non-taxable under the income tax as well as under the wealth tax. They all are exempt from the income tax and wealth tax. Clear? So this is the thing. Then if we talk about their loan situation, so can these FCNRB account holder, they can borrow loan from India, from Indian correspondent banks or authorized dealers? Yes, loan can be provided to them. Okay, let's see. Loans in India. AD, authorized dealers, as I have told you, these might be banks, any entity, financial entity authorized by the RBI to do or to perform all these functions. So these are your authorized dealers. They can be bank or any other financial entity for that matter, right? Okay, so AD, authorized dealers authorized by RBI to perform these functions can sanction loans. Banks, they can be banks as well. So they can sanction loans to this account holder in India to the account holder or third parties without any limit. So there is no limit onto the loan amount, but margin requirement has to be adhered to. Remember, margin requirement has to be adhered to. So without any limit, subject to usual margin requirements which are there in the domestic market prevailing in the banking system. What is the usual margin requirement? Margin requirement is basically the difference between your collateral and the loan amount, loan value and the value of the collateral which you put as security against loan, right? So margin requirement has to be adhered to, right? These loans cannot be repatriated outside India. Now remember, this is important. Okay, this is important. For FCNRB account holder, loans in India are allowed only. You cannot repatriate them outside India. You cannot send this amount outside India taken as loan from this FCNRB account on behalf of this FCNRB account. Getting my point? So any FCNRB account holder getting loan from India, any authorized dealer from India cannot repatriate it. So it is not completely repatriable. These loans cannot be repatriated, funds can be, normal funds can be, but loan taken as FCNRB account holder are non-repatriable. Remember this, this is important, okay. These loans cannot be repatriated outside India and can be used in India only for the purpose specified in the regulations. It can be used only in case of India, and that too as per the regulations, whatever is specified over there by the authorities. Clear? Second thing, in case of loans sanctioned to a third party, there should be no direct or indirect foreign exchange consideration for the non-resident depositor agreeing to pledge his deposits to enable the resident individual to obtain such facilities. If This same provision was there in the NRE account, if you recall it, if you remember it. If the account holder, the FCNRB account holder pledges these deposits of FCNRB account as security for letting some resident relative take loan, that can happen, but there is no foreign exchange benefit or consideration which has to be provided. No, it cannot be provided. Getting my point? So in case of loans sanctioned to a third party, okay, there should be no direct or indirect exchange consideration for the non-resident depositor, or the account holder who is agreeing to pledge his deposits to enable the resident individual firm company to obtain such facilities. So if on your behalf you are letting someone take loan, no benefits of foreign exchange is to be provided. This is clear, okay? And you cannot repatriate it. You cannot send it outside India, the loan amount, right? Then, in case of loan sanction to the account holder, it can be repaid either by adjusting the deposit. So, how can you repay it? You can repay through the deposits lying there in the FCNRB or through inward remittances which you have received in your FCNRB account. So, all your remittance amount which you have received in your FCNRB account can also be used to repay your loan taken from the FCNRB account. Clear? Okay. Through banking channels or out of balances held in NRO account of the account holder. One important thing you need to note here is, you can repay this loan through remittances, through deposits maintained in the FCNRB account, but also through your balances held in the NRO account. If you have balances in your NRO account, those funds, those balances of NRO account, non-resident ordinary account, which we will be discussing after this, can also be used to repay back pay back the loan of the FCNRB account holder. Clear? So these are the ways through which you can repay the loan. The facility for premature withdrawal of deposits will not be available where loans are taken against such deposits. If you have taken loan against these deposits which are lying there in your FCNRB account, then you cannot have the facility of premature withdrawal. You will have to adhere to the time limit to withdraw your funds. Getting my point? Are you able to understand this? Okay, so you just have to remember that yes, these facilities are not there, these are there, right? So premature withdrawal is not allowed when you are, say, taking loan against these deposits only. Okay, and very important thing, this is something very similar we have discussed in the NRE account as well. If you are able to recall, in the NRE also, it was specifically mentioned that the term loan wherever written here, term loan wherever written here, loan means your fund based as well as non-fund based facilities. Also remember this difference, okay? Loan can be in form of funds. You go to the bank, you have taken loan, so bank has given you funds. That is fund based loan, right? But there are non-fund based loans as well, like your bank guarantees, like etc. There are several instruments. So letter of credits, these all are your non-fund based facilities. Okay, letter of credit, bank guarantee, etc. So these instruments, they are also type of loans, but they fall under your non-fund based loan or non-fund based facility. Clear? So remember, loan means both funds based as well as non-funds based. Now, loan outside India. So inside India is allowed. Let's see what is the status for loan outside India. Authorized dealers may allow their branches outside India to grant loans in favor of non-resident depositor or third party at the request of the depositor for bona fide purposes. Authorized dealers from India having their branches outside India can request them to grant loan to these account holders, but only for bona fide purposes. What are bona fide purposes? That is, pure purposes, not malified, not having ill intentions, legitimate, legal, good intentions, good works. For that matter, they can be given or provided with the loan outside India as well, against the security of funds held in the NRE or FCNRB account. But what will be kept as security? The funds held in the FCNRB or NRE account, okay, in India, subject to usual margin requirement. So you can take loan from outside India on the recommendation of your authorized dealer with their branches having outside India, but for that you have to keep your NRE or FCNRB fund which is lying there, balance is lying there, as security. And as you have seen, when you keep them as security to take loan, you cannot have premature withdrawal facility, as we have seen, okay. So when you are taking loan against these deposits at security, you cannot have premature withdrawal facility, right? So this is another provision. So yes, loan can be taken from outside branches of the authorized dealers, but keeping in mind that your balances in the NRE and the FCNRB account has to be kept, either of them has to be kept as security, okay. This is to be remembered. Then what will be the rate of interest charged in all these things, deposits, loans of FCNRB account holder? That would be decided by your Department of Regulation of RBI. That would be decided by Department of Regulation. Clear? Similar was the provision in case of NRE account as well, right? So this is the thing. Then if we talk about operations by power of attorney in favor of resident, as we have seen that any resident relative of that person, NRI, PIO, can operate the account as power of attorney during the lifetime of that NRI or PIO. But if the resident relative wants to operate it as a joint account holder, then that could be done only after the demise of the NRI or the PIO, okay. So here operations in the account in terms of power of attorney is restricted to withdrawals. Now, being a power of attorney and working as a power of attorney on behalf of that person by the resident relative being a power of attorney, you can operate it during the lifetime of that person, but certain restrictions are there. What are these? Restricted to withdrawal for permissible local payments. You can withdraw money out of those accounts, FCNRB accounts, for local payments, that too which are permissible by the regulations. Permissible local payments, or remittances to the account holder himself through normal banking channel. Or you can work as power of attorney, you can operate this as power of attorney only to send these remittances to the account holder itself, or for local payments, that too has to be permissible. These only are allowed for power of attorney to operate upon. Clear? Next provision. Change in residential status from non-resident to resident. What if the residential status of NRI or PIO changes? Then what is the provision? Let's see. On change in residential status, FCNRB deposits may be allowed to continue till maturity at the contracted rate of interest if so desired by the account holder. So even if there is a change in your residential status, now you have become, say, resident of India, or you are looking for some employment which will change your resident status for a longer period of time, making you resident of India, for example, right? So if there is any change in resident status of yours and you want to continue this, that can be continued. That can, you can be allowed to continue till the maturity of that account, like minimum 1 year, maximum 5 years, like. So whatever is the maturity, the term deposit maturity of your account, till then you can operate it at the contracted rate of interest only. You will not be charged any extra, okay, at the rate of interest which was fixed during the contract, right? If so, if it is desired by the account holder, okay. Also, authorized dealers should convert the FCNRB deposits on maturity into resident rupee deposits. Now, when it comes to maturity, before maturity you can continue, but once the account matures, comes to maturity period, then this should be converted by the authorized dealers into resident rupee deposit account or RFC. Okay, resident rupee deposit account if the depositor is eligible to open RFC account, okay, at the option of the account holder. So that would be up to the account holder only, right? That would be up to the account holder. If the account holder wants to convert that FCNRB account, that can be converted, or that the deposits can be converted into your resident deposits, okay, resident rupee deposits. Clear? If the account holder wants to do that. Clear? Now, remittances from outside India. This is another important provision which you should remember. Remittances from outside India for opening of or crediting to these accounts should be made in the designated currency only. Any remittances coming to this account, inward remittances, have to be there in the designated currency which are freely convertible, okay, which the account is desired to be opened, maintained, in which you want to maintain whichever currency among the designated currencies, okay, you want to maintain the account. In case, but if in case the depositor with any currency other than designated currency, if you are the depositor, you have the currency other than those which are designated for this purpose, then you can have currency swap, okay, exchanging the principal and interest amount for the other currency, right? Designated currency desires to place a deposit in this account, then the authorized dealers, those banks, may undertake with the depositor a fully covered swap in that currency. Then you can avail the facility of currency swap. What is currency swap? Currency swap means you exchange the interest and sometimes principal as well. You exchange the interest and principal at the given rate for other currency, right? This is currency swap. So you can avail that facility in that case, and that can be done by the authorized dealer. If you have a currency deposit which is not in the designated currencies allowed for this FCNRB account, right? Such a swap may also be done between two designated currencies. So it can be a facility if you are having currency other than the designated ones, but remember what is written here. This currency swap can also happen between two designated currencies. So you can also exchange the interest and principal amount for other currency which is also a designated currency. So both can also be designated currencies. Clear? You can have swap in that as well. Now, what all are these designated currencies? So these designated currencies are your USD, US dollar, GBP, Great British Pound, Pound Sterling, Euro, as you know, the currency of European Union, then Japanese Yen, then you have AUD, which is your Australian dollar, and then you have CAD, which is your Canadian dollar, right? So these are the designated currencies. You should remember USD, US dollar, Great British Pound, Euro, Japanese Yen, Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. All these are designated currencies for your FCNRB account. You can have currency swap between designated one and non-designated one. You can have currency swap for between two designated currencies as well for the purpose of depositing into FCNRB account. Clear? So you should remember this. Hence, we are done with the FCNRB account. Any questions so far? If you have any doubts regarding the FCNRB account. No doubts, I am assuming. Okay. So we have completed the FCNRB account as well. Now, all the particulars should be very clear to you. Just keep on revising, you will be able to recall them, right? Now we will be discussing the other type of NRI account, which is your NRO account. Okay, so this was all about your FCNRB account. All provisions we have discussed in very detail with very particularities, right? Now, next type of your NRI account, is NRO, non-resident ordinary rupee account. So NRE is also maintained in rupee, NRO will also be maintained in rupee, but FCNRB has to be maintained in designated foreign currencies, as we have seen, right? So now let's see what all are the provisions for non-resident ordinary rupee account. As the name suggests, it will be maintained in rupee only, not in the foreign currency, right? So let's see all the particulars and details of the NRO account. So far, we have seen in detail NRE account, FCNRB account. Now we are discussing the NRO account, okay? Non-resident ordinary rupee account. So this is important here, because this is somewhat different from the earlier two types of account which we have discussed. Who all can open this account? Non-resident ordinary rupee account. In NRE, we have seen NRIs and PIOs can open. In FCNRB, we have seen NRIs and PIOs can open. But here, it is different. Who can open this account? Any person resident outside India for putting through bona fide transactions in rupees. Any person. It need not be NRI, PIO. So, it can be NRI, PIO, OCI, OCI card holder, spouse of someone, okay, any relative, anyone who is resident outside India. So this is somewhat different from the previous NRE and FCNRB account. There only NRIs and PIOs could open the account, but here you can see any person who is resident outside India can open this account. Any person residing outside India can open this account. Any means any, okay. For putting through bona fide transactions, but only for bona fide transactions, legitimate transactions, goodwill transactions, not transactions which have generated from illegitimate sources or which are ill-intentioned. Got this point? So only for bona fide transactions. Now, individual entities of Pakistan nationality or origin and entities of Bangladesh will require a prior approval, as was the case in NRE and FCNRB account as well. So individuals residing outside India but having origin in Pakistan or Bangladesh will require a prior permission to open this NRO account from the RBI, but any entity residing outside India can open this account, okay. Now, there is another specific provision here for this account holding is a citizen of Bangladesh or Pakistan. Any such person or entity who is a citizen of either of the countries mentioned here, Bangladesh or Pakistan, belonging to their minority communities, belonging to those communities which fall under minority category in those countries, in Bangladesh and Pakistan. So, citizen of Bangladesh in Pakistan belonging to minority communities in those countries. Which are minority communities in these countries? As you know, the Jains, okay, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis and Christians. These are minority there, right? Because these are Muslim dominated countries, okay. So, Hindu, Sikhs, Buddhist, Jain, Parsi, Christian. Such citizens belonging to minority community of Bangladesh and Pakistan who are residing in India, they are citizens of those countries but residing in India and who has been gained LTV, long term visa, okay, or whose application for long term visa is under consideration can open only one NRO account with an AD bank, authorized dealer bank, subject to conditions. These particulars are mentioned very specifically, right? So you should remember them, that any citizen belonging to either of the country, Bangladesh or Pakistan, belonging to their minority communities, which are Hindu, Buddh, Sikh, Parsi, Jain, residing in India with having a long-term visa or their application is under process for long-term visa, can also open NRO account, but they can only open one NRO account, with an authorized dealer bank from India. That would also be subject to conditions specified under the regulation, conditions specified under the regulations by the authorities. Right? So remember this. One more thing. So this is somewhat very mentioned in very detail, NRO. These things were not there in the NRE and FCNRB as we have discussed, right? So it also says that the post offices in India, post offices which we have in India, they can also maintain savings bank account, saving type of account in their banks, savings bank account in post offices, in the name of persons resident outside India, such entities, and allow operations on these accounts subject to the same terms and conditions as are applicable to NRO accounts maintained with an authorized dealer or authorized bank. So there is an additional information here as compared to the NRE and FCNRB account. This was not the provision there, right? So for NRO account, post offices can also open this account as saving account. Remember, post offices can also have this account on the name of the of that entity, okay, on the name of the person residing outside India, as saving bank account, okay, subject to same terms and conditions. Terms and conditions would be same as are applicable for the bank account, for the NRO account to be maintained by the banks. So terms and conditions to be maintained will be similar as in the case if you open the account with the bank, but post offices in India can also open the NRO account, non-resident ordinary account. Is that clear? Right? So this is important information. You should remember them. Now, can there be a joint account facility here? Yes. They may be held jointly in the name of two or more NRIs or PIOs, may be held jointly with residents on former or survivor basis. Again, same thing. It can be held jointly, but on the survivor and former basis, or former and survivor basis, which is to say that these can be held jointly with your residents, which are their resident relatives, but they can only operate it as a joint account holder after your demise. Clear? After your demise. Same provision. Then currency, of course, Indian rupee. Type of account, it can be saving, current, recurring or fixed deposit. As you have seen that post offices are allowed to open a saving account for this matter for NRO account holder, right? So they can be a saving account, current account, recurring deposit or fixed deposit, any one of them. Remember, unlike the FCNRB. FCNRB has to be a term deposit only, right? Now, period for fixed deposits. What if, because it can also be a fixed deposit. So if in case the NRO account is opened up as a fixed deposit, what will be the period of that fixed deposit? It will be same as which is applicable for your resident accounts, for accounts which we have, right? So same tenure of FD which is applicable in resident accounts will also be applicable here. Got this point? Now, permissible credits. What are the permissible credits? Again, inward remittances from outside India, legitimate dues in India and transfers from other NRO accounts. any inward remittances coming from outside India, any dues which are there in India accruing to your account, transfers from other NRO account holder. If another NRO account holder transfers something to this account, these all are permissible credits. Also, rupee gift in rupee, loan made by resident to NRI or PIO relative within the limits prescribed under the liberalized remittance scheme may also be credited to later's NRO account. Okay. So, gift received in rupees, loans made by a resident to the NRI or PIO relative. So, if you have a relative, if the NRO account holder has a relative who is a NRI or PIO, that is sent to your account, okay, within the prescribed limit which is prescribed under the liberalized remittances scheme of RBI, that can also be credited to your NRO account, but it has to be sent by the NRI or PIO relative only, right? That is also permissible to be credited into your account, but under the limits prescribed by liberalized remittance scheme. What is this LRS scheme, liberalized remittance scheme? So it is a scheme which was launched by RBI. Okay, it was basically for providing these provisions, conditions, what you can, how much remittances you can send abroad, like presently. So the LRS scheme allowed for from remittances from India to be sent outside, they can be for maximum of, say, maximum limit is 2,50,000 US dollars. Okay, how much? 2,50,000 US dollar per financial year. Okay, per financial year. So, any doubts till this point? Anyone? Alright, so all these are permissible credits. Rupee gift, loan made by an NRI or PIO to your account, that is also permissible credit. Okay, inward remittances, all these things. So these are your permissible credits. But they will be subject to your prescribed limits which are prescribed under your liberalized remittance scheme. So as I told you, the LRS scheme or liberalized remittance scheme is the scheme launched by RBI. It deals with your remittances and all those things, and it gave a limit of 2,50,000 US dollars. Okay, per financial year can be sent as remittance from outside India. So outward remittances from India. So there are several other provisions like that. So this is your LRS scheme, and the prescribed limit, all the guidelines which are there by RBI, by authorities for this matter, have to be adhered to. Right? So I will stop it here. We will be discussing further about the NRO account and the further accounts, right, in the next class. Okay, so today we have discussed the FCNRB account completely, all the provisions. We have contrasted, we have compared the provisions with the earlier discussed NRE account as well. Then we have started discussing the NRO account. We have tried comparing these features with the earlier one, NRE and FCNRB. We have done it till this limit, okay, till this point. Permissible credit, permissible credits. What all credits are permissible in your NRO accounts. Further, permissible debits and all other particulars will be discussed in your next session or next part of this topic. Clear? I hope you are getting all these things, you are able to understand all these things. Just try to revise them. Revision will only help, because these are provisions and we have to remember. We cannot help it with any other method, right? So revision will be the key. Keep on revising. Thank you so much for staying tuned, staying focused in the class. I'll see you in the next class. Thank you so much. Have a great day.